This is Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa. The story of resurgent and burgeoning Africa is here, only on the Pulse of Africa channel. Pulse of Africa, the face and voice of Africa.
Welcome to Ethiopia, your second home. As you gather for the 48th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council and the 39th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly, the vibrant city of Addis Ababa opens its arms to you. This year, leaders from across the continent unite under the powerful theme, assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Together, we embark on a journey of meaningful discourse and shared visions for a brighter future. That is not just about discussions within these esteemed halls. As you can see, the streets of Addis Ababa are alive with transformation, all ready to welcome you. Don't miss the iconic Adwa Victory Memorial, a symbol of resilience and pride commemorating Africa's triumph over colonialism. It stands as a testament to the determination of a people ready to defend their sovereignty. Once again, a very warm welcome to Addis Ababa, a city in motion and a destination that feels like home. Together, let's shape the future. Hello and welcome. I'm Ada Masai and this is Pulse of Africa News, coming to you live from Addis Ababa, the political capital of Africa. This hour's news provides comprehensive coverage of the high-level deliberations at the 48th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union. The 48th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council of the African Union has concluded at the AU headquarters in Addis Ababa, held for the past 2 days under the theme Assuring Sustainable Water Availability and Safe Sanitation Systems to Achieve the Goals of Agenda 2063. The meeting brought together foreign ministers from AU member states, senior diplomats, and leaders of AU institutions. During the session, the Council deliberated on agenda items previously considered by the 51st Ordinary Session of the Permanent Representatives Committee, PRC. It also approved key agenda items to be forwarded to the 39th Ordinary Session of the Assembly of Heads of State and Government, scheduled to take place from February 14 to 15, 2026. The Council reviewed reports from AU institutions and organizations, as well as committees and subcommittees under its authority. It also examined the progress report on the implementation of Agenda 2063, the African Union's long-term development blueprint. Major areas of discussion included water availability and sanitation, continental integration, social and economic development, human capital development, institutional and financial reforms, regional partnerships, and Africa's role on the global stage. The Executive Council further assessed Africa's participation in the 2025 G20 Leaders Summit held in South Africa. Elections were conducted to fill positions within various AU organs. Somalia was elected as a member of the AU Peace and Security Council. At the close of the session, Angola formally handed over the rotating chairmanship of the Executive Council to Burundi. Angola's Minister of Foreign Affairs and outgoing chair of the Council, Ambassador Tete Antonio, said the meeting concluded successfully following constructive deliberations on key continental priorities.
The African Union prioritized peace and security through mediation, negotiation, and Peace and Security Council. It works to prevent conflict and to address root causes for the lasting stability across the continent. Progress in regional cooperation and conflict prevention both support the broader development growth across our continent. These efforts strengthen our resilience and pave the way for sovereignty across the continent. And all African leaders will be focusing to reinforce these mechanisms on the 39th session of the African Union Assembly from February 14th to 15th, 2026, right here in Addis Ababa. And we, Pulse of Africa, will be your trusted media platform where you get all information across the continent. Make sure to stay tuned.
The 48th Ordinary Session of the African Union Executive Council has elected 10 member states to serve on the AU Peace and Security Council for the 2026 up to 2028 term, strengthening the continent's primary organ for conflict prevention and crisis response. The newly elected members are Benin, Gabon, Lesotho, Morocco, Somalia, and South Africa, while Cote d'Ivoire and the Democratic Republic of Congo, Sierra Leone, and Uganda were re-elected to continue their service. The new mandate will run from 1st April 2026 to 31st March 2028. Established in 2004, the PSC is the AU's standing decision-making body for the prevention, management, and resolution of conflicts. The 15-member council authorizes peace support operations, imposes sanctions, addresses unconstitutional change of government, and coordinates counterterrorism efforts across the continent. The council operates within the African Peace and Security Architecture, which includes the Continental Early Warning System, the African Standby Force, and the Panel of the Wise. Its role has become increasingly significant amid ongoing security challenges in the Sahel, the Horn of Africa, and parts of Central and Eastern Africa. The elected members are expected to be formally endorsed by heads of state and government during the 39th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly, scheduled for 14 and 15 February 2026 in Addis Ababa. As the Union advances efforts to strengthen African-led peace initiatives and implement the Silencing the Guns agenda. His Majesty King Letsie III of Kingdom of Lesotho has praised Ethiopia's integrated child survival and nutrition programs during a visit to Zewditu Memorial Hospital in Addis Ababa, describing the country's efforts as a model for Africa. The king, who serves as the African Union champion for nutrition, toured the hospital alongside Ethiopia's health minister, Magdas Daba, officials from Nutrition International, and representatives of the government of Canada. Speaking after the visit, King Letsie said he was impressed by Ethiopia's systematic integration of nutrition into its broader health services, noting that the country's approach demonstrates strong political commitment and effective implementation. He highlighted Ethiopia's progress in tackling anemia among women and children through routine screening, micronutrient supplementation, and antenatal care integration, describing anemia as a major but preventable public health challenge across Africa.
I have witnessed firsthand the forward-looking and integrated approaches Ethiopia is taking to safeguard the health and development of its children and mothers. From paperless electronic medical records that enhance continuity of care to community-based health insurance that expands access, from strong maternal and child survival programs to therapeutic feeding, early child stimulation, and follow-up services that ensure no child is left behind. What is especially commendable is the systemic way in which nutrition has been embedded within the broader health system.
The king also commended Ethiopia's use of integrated health services, including electronic medical records, community-based health insurance, maternal and child survival programs, and therapeutic feeding initiatives. Health Minister Addis Ababa said the visit showcased Ethiopia's long-term vision of strengthening nutrition as a key pillar of human capital development, supported by more than 40,000 health extension workers serving communities nationwide.
This model has a high impact that has been already tested over the years, including immunization, vitamin A supplementation, zinc supplementation, breastfeeding promotion. When we walked today, you have seen mothers carrying their children, and they're also learning from each other about what to do for their children. It is not about separation, but bonding that we need, both at a continental level on the things we do, but also at a hospital level where mothers can sit and discuss. The work we have is about delivering directly to the community. It is about decentralization, not just about centralized care. We can transform care if we can decentralize and make it a center of attention to the community. The high-level care of health centers, hospitals such as Zauditu, can provide that emergency obstetric care, early childhood care, a diagnostic service that we give to the neonates, to the children, to the mothers, specialized care and treatment, ensuring that clear referral pathways are in place. The model we see in here is about a continuum of care.
She noted that Ethiopia has achieved major health gains over the past 25 years, with under 5 mortality declining from 166 to 51 deaths per 1,000 live births, although challenges remain in reducing neonatal mortality and malnutrition. Joel Spicer, President and CEO of Nutrition International, warned that global progress in child survival is reversing, estimating that 30 million children could die from preventable causes in the next 5 years, including 18 million in Africa.
So our visit here to this hospital, and I must express my gratitude to all people that work here, has shown us a standard that other countries need to meet. Is it being met everywhere in the country, in other countries? Is it even being met in Canada, I wonder, when I was walking around? No, it's not. But Ethiopia has the courage and the vision and the leadership. And those are 3 very important ingredients if we are going to save children from dying. They are integrating new interventions. We heard about double fortified salt. We heard about taking more agency and leadership on vitamin A. That's wonderful. I must say I was extremely proud to watch His Majesty and Minister Mektes, and to also be able to give vitamin A to a child.
He praised Ethiopia's comprehensive health strategy and emphasized the importance of international partnerships, noting that collaborative efforts are essential to ensure every child survives, grows, and reaches their full potential. The United Kingdom has underscored its intention to strengthen ties with the continent through partnerships rooted in mutual respect and shared interests. The 2026 African Union Summit has drawn international organizations and countries from across the globe, all seeking to deepen engagement with the AU and advance multilateral cooperation. The UK's permanent representative to Ethiopia in the African Union, Ambassador Darren Welch, emphasized that Britain's approach to Africa is evolving. The UK wants to build and deepen its relationship with Africa based on mutual respect, Ambassador Welch stated, highlighting a shift from traditional donor-recipient dynamics towards more balanced and equal partnerships.
The United Kingdom has recently adopted a new approach to Africa, and our Africa Minister is here in Ethiopia this week as well for the summit. And our new approach to Africa is based on respectful partnerships, mature partnerships of mutual benefit, of finding more ways to invest, as we spoke about earlier, and having moving beyond the old-fashioned relationships of donor and recipient of aid to more equal partnerships, which feels more modern and more appropriate for the respectful way that we want to engage with Africa. And we want to see African voice amplified and magnified on the world stage.
Ambassador Welch noted that the UK is working closely with African nations to support the AU's Agenda 2063, the continent's long-term strategic framework for inclusive growth and sustainable development. He stressed that a stronger Africa is not only vital for the continent itself, but also for fostering sustainable and mutually beneficial relations with the UK.
We are working with the African Union on adaptation to climate change, on that African comprehensive, the Continental Free Trade Agreement to get that intra-African trade flowing. And we are working on peace and security issues as well. So it's a really important continent for the United Kingdom. We've got long history here. We want to use that history to build modern partnerships for a future where Africa is going to grow and grow.
The ambassador further explained that Britain intends to draw on its long-standing historical connections with African countries to forge deeper friendships and more resilient partnerships. This approach reflects the UK's recognition of Africa's growing role in global affairs and its commitment to supporting African-led initiatives. By reaffirming its commitment to respectful collaboration, the UK signals its readiness to work alongside African countries in areas ranging from economic growth and climate resilience to peace and stability. The African Union, AU, has called on member states to urgently boost investment in water, sanitation and digital agriculture, warning that the continent's development and food security depend on bold political and financial commitments. Speaking at a media briefing on the margins of the 48th session of the AU Executive Council, AU Commissioner for Agriculture, Rural Development, Blue Economy and Sustainable Environment, Moses Vilakari, said the AU's 2026 theme that reflects a collective recognition that water is central to human security, social stability, and economic transformation. This summit is being held under the theme of the year, assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Vilakari said more than 400 million people in Africa still have access to safe water for daily use, while over 800 million are without basic hygiene services. He added that there is an estimated annual financing gap of about $30 billion needed to meet sustainable development goal on water and sanitation. There is no life without water, and no development is possible without water. Water connects all development sectors: agriculture, energy, industry, and the environment, he said, urging governments to elevate water from a sectoral issue to a strategic asset for Africa's growth and climate resilience.
There is no life without water, and no development is possible without water. Water connects all development sectors, serving as an essential resource for agriculture, for energy, for industry, as well as the natural environment, which is a crucial source of livelihood for a significant portion of the African population, especially in our rural areas. That doesn't, of course, preclude the urban areas as well. There is therefore a need to immediately elevate water from a sectorial issue to a core strategic asset for Africa's economic growth, for Africa's stability and climate resilience, which is underpinned with a strong political commitment.
He said the African Union Commission has developed a continental roadmap to drive transformative change in water and sanitation. Turning to agriculture, Vilakari said Africa remains food insecure and continues to spend close to $20 billion annually on food imports, a trend he said must be reversed. He highlighted progress under the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, CAADP, and the Kampala Declaration adopted in 2025. He said the completion of the CAADP domestication guidelines will help countries integrate continental commitments into national agri-food investment plans, while a new results framework and indicators will strengthen accountability and evidence-based tracking.
We have already achieved major milestones with the completion of the CAADP domestication guidelines. These guidelines provide a unified, practical framework to support member states in integrating CAADP commitments into their national agri-food systems investment plans. These guidelines also enhance coherence. They improve planning quality and create a more harmonized implementation process across the continent.
On digital agriculture, the commissioner said technology is rapidly reshaping African farming by improving access to timely information, boosting resilience, and enabling data-driven decisions across value chains. He said the AU Digital Agriculture Strategy 2024 up to 2030 provides a continental framework to scale up digital tools, improve food and nutrition security, strengthen climate resilience, and create new economic opportunities. The modernization of agriculture through digital transformation is essential for inclusive growth and sustainable development across Africa, Vilakari said.
Welcome to Ethiopia, your second home. As you gather for the 48th Ordinary Session of the Executive Council and the 39th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly, the vibrant city of Addis Ababa opens its arms to you. This year, leaders from across the continent unite under the powerful theme, assuring sustainable water availability and safe sanitation systems to achieve the goals of Agenda 2063. Together, we embark on a journey of meaningful discourse and shared visions for a brighter future. But it's not just about discussions within these esteemed halls. As you can see, the streets of Addis Ababa are alive with transformation, all ready to welcome you. Don't miss the iconic Adwa Victory Memorial, a symbol of resilience and pride commemorating Africa's triumph over colonialism. It stands as a testament to the determination of a people ready to defend their sovereignty. Once again, a very warm welcome to Addis Ababa, a city in motion and a destination that feels like home. Together, let's shape the future.
The African Union prioritized peace and security through mediation, negotiation, and Peace and Security Council. It works to prevent conflict and to address root causes for the lasting stability across the continent. Progress in regional cooperation and conflict prevention both support the broader development growth across our continent. These efforts strengthen our resilience and pave the way for sovereignty across the continent. And all African leaders will be focusing to reinforce these mechanisms on the 39th session of the African Union Assembly from February 14th to 15th, 2026, right here in Addis Ababa. And we, Pulse of Africa, will be your trusted media platform where you get all information across the continent. Make sure to stay tuned.
If you don't tell your story, it will be told by others. They'll talk of hunger, they'll talk of war, they'll talk of conflict, but they'll not say the things that are happening in Africa that are positive.
This is POA, a very new media organization in Ethiopia.
We have to be voice for ourselves. There is no one else that can tell our story better than us.
If it's defending African matters, then go for it. Go for Pulse Media.
This is the Pulse of Africa. Tune in, follow the journey, and learn about the news and what's shaping our African continent.
I am really impressed by the work that they are doing by telling the African story from Africa for Africans. I think it's definitely needed.
Please subscribe to the Pulse of Africa on all platforms.
Professor Gaspard Banyan Kimbona, Commissioner for Education, Science, Technology and Innovation at the African Union Commission, emphasized the African Union's ongoing efforts to advance continental education objectives as part of Agenda 2063. Speaking on the critical importance of investing in human capital, Commissioner Banyan Kimbona cautioned that Africa stands at a pivotal crossroads. We must invest in our children's minds today, or we will pay a heavy price tomorrow in the form of instability, inequality, and continued dependence, he stated. He stressed the need for African countries to harness their greatest asset, the intellectual potential of their people.
Africa as of today stands at a crossroads. We have two choices. Actually one, but anyway, we can have two. Either we invest in our own children's mind today, that's the option number one, or we pay the price of instability, inequality, and dependence tomorrow. If it was you to choose on behalf of the African continent, what would you choose? Keep your answer.
Highlighting alarming statistics on learning outcomes, the Commissioner noted that approximately 80% of young people under the age of 10 in Africa are unable to read and understand a simple text. He warned that failure to address learning, poverty, and the widening skills gap risks transforming the continent's much anticipated demographic dividend into a time bomb and a missed opportunity for sustainable development.
We have a kind of three transformative shift that we are pushing through the decade, and its pillars, as I mentioned them as strategies. From access to mastery, we want every child to achieve that literacy and that numeracy by age of 10. From diploma to skills, and this is where I think we have been cheated as African. You know, having a paper, even if it doesn't correspond to what you have in your brain, you feel very, very comfortable. And we want every young person to gain not a good paper with a seal, but competencies, especially for the green, digital, and creative economies. That is the current trend.
To reverse this trend, Commissioner Banyan Kimbona reaffirmed the African Union's commitment through the recently launched Decade of Accelerated Action for the Transformation of Education and Skills Development in Africa, starting from 2025 up to 2034. By 2034, Africa aims to ensure every child achieves foundational literacy and numeracy. Every young person gains skills for the green and digital economies. Every teacher is well trained and empowered as a nation builder, and higher education institutions become leading centers of research, innovation, and solutions to continental challenges. He further called on African governments to leverage emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence and to mobilize sustainable financing for the education sector to accelerate progress toward these goals. On the margins of the 48th session of the AU Executive Council, the IGAD Executive Secretary, Warqaneh Gabayo, received Mohi El-Din Salem, Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Sudan, following Sudan's resumption of its membership. Discussions focused on the peace and security situation and the importance of sustained regional cooperation. The Executive Secretary welcomed the Minister to the IGAD Council of Ministers and reaffirmed IGAD's commitment to supporting lasting peace and stability for the Sudanese people and the region. Ethiopia's Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, GERD, has been highlighted by the African Union Commission as a leading example of domestic resource mobilization, with officials urging African countries to replicate similar models to finance critical infrastructure and reduce reliance on external funding. Speaking on the margins of the 48th session of the AU Executive Council, the AUC Commissioner for Infrastructure and Energy said shifting global economic conditions, rising capital costs, and declining development assistance require Africa to rethink how it funds long-term projects. She pointed to GERD's largely domestically financed construction as proof that transformative infrastructure can be delivered through national commitment and citizen participation.
The Ethiopian Renaissance Dam as an example of domestic resource mobilization, certainly. The fact that majority of it is funded by citizens, and the fact that the funding really was Ethiopia itself mobilizing from different sources within. That is actually a very good example that for the most part needs to be emulated. And that's the heart of domestic resource mobilization, right? It's your citizens, it's your own enterprises, etc. So the answer to your question is yes. It's a good example of domestic resource mobilization.
With the AU's 2026 theme focused on sustainable water management and sanitation, the Commissioner described water as core economic infrastructure essential to industrialization. She noted that nearly 300 million Africans lack access to safe drinking water and about 780 million lack adequate sanitation, gaps that directly affect productivity, public health, and investment potential. Closing the water infrastructure deficit alone requires an estimated $30 billion. The Commissioner emphasized the need to accelerate implementation of the AU's Program for Infrastructure Development in Africa, PIDA, which includes 69 priority cross-border projects in transport, energy, ICT, and water. She stressed that infrastructure planning must be insulated from political cycles and integrated into national development strategies to ensure continuity and long-term impacts.
Ethiopia's supply of water to Djibouti, as an example to other countries, certainly. When we are talking about African integration, we are talking about, it's not just about trade of products, as it were. It's also trade of our own resources among ourselves for our own development. So water to Djibouti by Ethiopia is critical. We mentioned earlier that water is fundamental to productivity. It's fundamental to human health. It's fundamental to the delivery of our manufacturing requirements, whether we are talking at a base level, just the factory that manufactures widgets, or we are talking now in the new industries like the data centers. When you're talking the digital, there's a huge water requirement in those sorts of infrastructure, in that sort of infrastructure. So the supply of water to neighboring countries is quite important.
She also underscored the importance of unlocking Africa's own financial resources, noting that an estimated $4.6 trillion in African financial assets, including pension funds, remain underutilized, calling for diversified partnerships and stronger local participation. She urged countries to negotiate infrastructure deals on African terms, promote local content and skills development, and deepen regional cooperation in strategic resources such as water and energy. Framing GERD as more than a national achievement, the Commissioner said it represents a broader continental lesson. Africa's sustainable development will increasingly depend on its ability to finance its own priorities, strengthen regional integration, and build resilient infrastructure that supports industrial growth. Ghana is leading a renewed effort at the United Nations to have the transatlantic slave trade formally declared a crime against humanity, intensifying Africa's campaign for reparatory justice and historical accountability. Speaking on behalf of African states, Ghana's representatives urged the international community to recognize the lasting social, economic, and psychological consequences of the slave trade on Africa and the global African diaspora. The proposal frames the transatlantic slave trade not only as a historical atrocity, but as a crime whose legacy continues to shape global inequalities.
Consistent with the Accra Declaration on Reparations and the AU Assembly's decision on reparative justice, Ghana, on behalf of the African Union, intends to table a resolution at the United Nations General Assembly on the 25th of March this year, seeking the formal and universal recognition of the transatlantic slave trade and slavery as the gravest crime against humanity. Ghana formally requests the unflinching support and co-sponsorship of all AU member states for this resolution. We have already worked extensively with experts in the African Union, in the CARICOM Commission, and in the larger diaspora community. And we believe that this is a time to secure justice. By standing together at the United Nations, we signal to the world that Africa will no longer allow the scale of its historical suffering to be minimized.
Diplomatic sources indicate that the initiative seeks to strengthen the legal and moral basis for discussions on reparations, restitution, and structural redress. Supporters argue that formal recognition by the UN would add significant weight to calls for meaningful engagements between affected nations and former slave trading powers. Ghana has positioned itself at the forefront of the reparatory justice movement, notably through initiatives such as the Year of the Return and sustained diaspora outreach programs. Officials stress that the push is aimed at promoting historical truth, reconciliation, and equitable development rather than division. The move aligns with broader African Union efforts to advance reparatory justice within the framework of long-term continental development. If adopted, the declaration could mark a pivotal moment in global discourse on accountability and open new avenues for structured dialogue on reparations. That's the news for this hour. Next up is our weekly program. Please stay and watch. Thank you for joining us. Goodbye.